Hey everybody, welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Monday Review. Got Charlie Boehm here. Charlie, how you doing?
I'm well. Great to be back with you for my first episode of an absolutely massive 2026.
Oh, that's right. Almost forgot. A lot going on this year. How you feeling about World Cup tickets? I know we've talked about this before. The prices, the you know, the billions and billions of requests for tickets that have come in from around the universe.
No prizes for originality, but I'm pretty appalled. 500 million requests, we are told, from FIFA. I'd love to know how many of those are living, breathing human beings in front of the screen and not bots or algorithms or what have you. Yeah, as someone whose life was fundamentally changed by the 1994 World Cup, a dumb kid growing up in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs and got to go to all but one of the 94 games of the Cotton Bowl way back when in my adolescent years, and never saw the world the same way again. I'm super bummed out that we can't fill these NFL stadiums with more people in my position who could maybe have a similar life altering experience. I'm sure that will happen, but it's just not going to happen on the scale that it could and should. And I think for me, the real FU moment was when it came out that they're going to charge admission to the fan fests, which have all, as far as I know, have always been free and have been like the people's alternative, right? And even in Qatar, a very gentrified and difficult to access World Cup for large swaths of the world, there was still great vibes at those fan fests, and you could always catch a game, whatever was going on, wherever you were. You could dip into the local fan fest and interact with real people from all over the world, and it was super cool. And again, there'll be some version of that at this year's, but to have to pay a red cent to get into them is a huge bummer.
I didn't even know about that part, and I also didn't know that fan fests were free previously. Man, yeah, it's like, I mean, we talk about it a lot, but it's gonna be tough for that dumb kid from Dallas Fort Worth to get into a game. It's gonna be tough for me to get into a game, and I'm like the picture of gentrification over here. So, well, we're still gonna be a blast. Still gonna be a blast. Thinking
It'll
about
be a smorgasbord of soccer, right?
yeah.
But unfortunately, I think too many Americans are, and maybe this is just the reflection of our wider culture, but we're just used to watching stuff on TV, right, on the big screen at home and on the couch, and that has its place. And we're super lucky to have this kaleidoscope of soccer products from all over the world beamed into our homes at relatively affordable prices relative to the rest of the industrialized world. But there's no substitute for boots on the ground, right? A common mantra around these parts.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the weekend action a little bit. Why don't you start us with Chris Richards?
Yes, U.S. Soccer 2025 Male Player of the Year celebrated his award with another solid 90 minutes for Crystal Palace. Just to run through some of the numbers here, I think we can call it a typical Ismama kind of performance. 82 touches, 81% completion on 57 passes, won 77% of his duels, ground and aerial combined, co-led his team with 4 tackles won, and led the game with 17 defensive contributions. But he came away with nothing because Crystal Palace managed to lose 2-1 to promoted upstart Cinderella's Sunderland, and have dropped to 13th in EPL, haven't won a game since December 11th. That's crazy. That's 10 games winless in all comps. They've crashed out of the FA Cup to Macclesfield and was statistically the biggest upset in the history of that tournament. And Oliver Glasner appears to be wanting to talk his way out of the job. He's already said he's not going to come back after his contract expires in the summer. And he said he and his team feel abandoned completely by the club leadership after this loss, claiming that he was left in the dark about the sale of Mark Gahey to Man City.
Yeah, because they've sold a lot of good players in the last couple of years too, like Elise, and which I guess you understand. But Gahey is kind of the heartbeat of the team.
Yes, he's also out of contract in the summer. Supposedly the board, I forget the director's name, their response to Glasner's outburst was that, we were ready to sell him for more money last summer, and you said no, and we listened to you because he was so important to the team. So they are a selling club. He's helped them make a lot of money. It's been a great success story, kind of a all too, I guess, symbolic snapshot of where the club is. That the FA Cup Cinderella story last year was one of the best stories in world soccer, that they won that trophy. And now their title defense is over before anybody thought, at the hands of what Macclesfield is non-league, I think 5th tier. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly.
Where is Macclesfield? Let's figure that out. I want to know.
Yeah, I think it's in the north, and it's not far from Manchester. They're coached by John Rooney, brother of Wayne, former MLSer, Red Bull New York alum. And they're a Phoenix club that was risen and has connected with their community after being run into oblivion by in their past life, as I think they were Macclesfield Town before, I believe.
Okay, so kind of like a little bit of a Wrexham thing going on. Same part of the world. Yeah, you're right. It's like equidistant from Manchester and Liverpool. Also in that part of the world, also in that north part of England, Brendo. He's really, speaking of phoenixes, he's kind of been one lately, hasn't he?
Yes. He's arguably, yes. I'm sure we'd have a fun argument in Discord or Blue Sky or wherever else you gather for your online arguments about whether he's been their best attacker. But after falling out and then some with the Leeds United faithful, after leaving following the relegation and failing to meet the expectations engendered by his vastly inflated, I think, unfairly so, transfer fee on arrival, Brendo has worked his tail off and got a standing ovation when he came off in their 1-0 last gasp win over Jedi Robinson's Fulham over the weekend. And they've now, after getting into relegation trouble and a couple months ago, having a lot of chatter about their manager getting fired, the Whites have lost just once since November, and Brendo leads the team in assists, ranks 3rd in goals, 2nd in chances created, and 3rd in successful dribbles per 90. And BBC's on-site reporter filed a reaction post hailing Aaronson's quote-unquote remarkable turnaround, describing him as industrious, skillful, hardworking, and one of those players that you can't take your eyes off because you don't quite know what he's going to do next.
It's kind of a lesson in, if you're industrious, it counts for a lot, for obviously for a team, for a fan base. But when you add a little bit of cut and thrust to it, all of a sudden you're like, you're the toast of the town, Yeah.
I mean, they're still only 16th. I think they're going to be sweating relegation probably down to the end. I would like to think that there are 3 teams that are worse than them in the EPL. A lot can change in the next few months, but a real cool story to see. And I think the little brothering moments can still happen, but maybe less often. I think he's learned how to be a little more comfortable in his own skin, leans into his strengths, is now familiar and comfortable with the rough and tumble. And for me, it's shaping up for him to be the super sub, the spark plug off the bench for the USMNT this summer.
All right. Let's talk about a few of the goals that happened this weekend. I guess we should start with Pat Agyemang. So this was for me, the goal of the weekend. It's a game winner late. He leans over and in front of a guy and heads it past him, like down and perfectly into the corner. Totally unstoppable. You watch all his shots in this game and, all his involvements, and it's pretty uneven. I mean, he mishits a somewhat difficult but not impossible half volley in the first half, kind of shanks it gently over the end line. And then in the second half, he skies a legitimate sitter right in front of goal, and then has another chance, makes a mess of a back post header where he probably could have, put it on frame. But then, you can see why Agyemang irresistible to some managers, and maybe even, I mean, could be irresistible to Poch when it comes to World Cup roster time because of the goal. It's just so it's such a separator, the way his frame, the way he can use it. He can dunk on a guy, and he showed with this goal he can put the ball on target with finesse, even as he's like got a guy draped all over him. And to me, it seems like this matters, and maybe will overcome his weaknesses as a player when it comes roster time. You kind of don't agree with me, do you?
Well, I'm rooting for Big Pat, but it's hard for me with the numbers, the sort of the where he's at in his individual career cycle. It's hard for me to see it coming together in time for 2026 for Big Pat, because as you said, the skill set is so tantalizing, but he still has these raw aspects or unfinished aspects to his game at age 25. I've written about him, as many others have. He's a quintessential late bloomer. I don't think he really grew into his body until he was well into his 20s, well into college. I could see him being a Tim Ream type late bloomer and then international level in 2030 or 2034, and being super. I mean, I think he could be a useful option this year. I think he's going to be, if he spends a couple of years in the Champo, and I'm already seeing these subtle aspects of the number 9 toolkit sort of getting refined and built out in real time. I mean, the sitter that you mentioned, that one was particularly frustrating because he does something that he's not always been good at pro level, which is he drifts away from his marker. He's reading the space. He finds the pocket at the back post and reads where the ball is going to be. Everything comes together, all that off ball stuff that has sometimes been a shortcoming. And then he just blazes it over. And I think he hit it with his weaker foot too, first time. And it's like, maybe in a year or two, he's going to let that come across, or maybe he'll just be a little bit calmer in that moment. Love to see where he's going. Don't know if he's there yet.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's that running onto the ball in the channel, his ability to do that and hold it up, and then, that aerial dominance that could get him across the line. But
yeah, who else? I mean, to be fair, who else is really bringing that?
Not Haji,
right?
Not Haji, right? Fuller and Balogun brings the channel running, but not the aerial dominance. And I mean, I feel like late in a game in the World Cup, you need to pump a bunch of crosses in. You're going to wish you had Pat to throw on there for the last 5-10 minutes if you don't have him,
The battering ram.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
I think this gets into a roster construction question, because how many specialists can you or will you want to take, and how much of Poch's brain have we seen on this? I don't know if we really know, but for example, does Sebastian Berhalter get on the proverbial plane because of set piece deliveries? Does Big Pat get on the proverbial plane because of aerial prowess? Okay, so that's 2 spots right there out of what we believe is probably 26, right?
Yeah.
And this is, if you're really serious about a deep run, you're thinking about how you rotate the squad, and you've got to use the full roster, right, or close to it, which was a big problem in 2022. So again, that's beyond the remit of this episode.
Perhaps, yes.
But we'll recircle.
If I have to choose one specialist between Pat and Sebastian, I'm taking Pat. That's just me, though.
I love that take.
Weah also scored. Tim Weah, a smart header on a half volley cut back from the end line to make it 4-0 over Angers. Punched it right into the far post. So elegant the way he put in the back of the net. He now has 3 goals and 2 assists in all competitions this season from Marseille, which I mentioned because it's not that impressive. It seems like he's scored more, but I guess I've just watched the replays so many times of that volley he crushed past somebody. I forget who it was, and then the one against Real Madrid. But it just seems like he's scored more than he has. He really hasn't had that much impact on the score sheet for Marseille.
Well, can we call him still fundamentally a rich man's utility player? Maybe that's unfair, but he's not always in those positions where he's he's getting big chances with regularity. So
He
I
does
was
play a
looking
lot
to
of
see where he
plays a lot
played.
of fullback. Yeah.
Yeah. So
He's
and he was where did he play this time? He was a wing back again.
yeah.
So
I mean, he got in behind on a chance early, like was played in and tried to clip it over the keeper, and it was saved well. So it's like he's in the vicinity of where goals happen. He's a rich man's utility player. He's for a poor man, such as the United States of America men's national team. He should be probably a starting winger.
right winger.
I think so.
Me too. I don't care what his eye dominance is.
Yeah.
Poch, if you're listening, please, I beg you.
Have you been thinking about your eye dominance since that all happened?
I've had to think about left eye, my dominance my whole life because I'm left eye dominant.
Really?
And I'm left hand. No, wait. Yeah. Is it? It's whichever way. Yeah, I'm left-handed.
So yeah, whichever one you can't wink is the one that you're dominant with.
I can wink with both though.
Well, maybe you're ambidextrous.
Back to the drawing board for me, but
okay. Yeah, I can't figure out which eye is dominant for me. I don't know. If anybody knows how to figure that out, send me a email about it.
Poch needs to talk. He likes the America trapping, so I hope he speaks with some military pilots about this. Both my brothers and my dad were all were and are aviators. One of my brothers, but my two brothers had to go the long way to becoming pilots. They did it through the Army, so they had to learn helicopters first and then get into fixed wing. But I'm saying all this because a lot of military like technology are these, like they do these ocular things, right? So basically like a monocle drops out of the helmet for like sighting for gunships and that sort of thing. And at least at the time they were in the military, you only had it for the right eye. So if you were left eye dominant, you just had to learn how to shoot with your weaker eye. And so one of my brothers had to do that. It was very difficult for him.
Really? Interesting.
So I think it matters more there than on the pitch. I'm arguing that case, but again, somebody in the Discord with military aviation experience can correct me.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I assume it's all just a bunch of gobbledygook, but I guess it is a real thing.
I suspect Poch may be overthinking that particular detail in his laudable eagerness to sweat every possible detail.
Yeah, I'm for that. I like that part of it. Right. Haji scored a goal, a game winner. It was important, but pretty scrappy. Bundled one in at the back post for the winner in the 87th minute. Came on as a sub with like 30 minutes to go and pretty active as a striker. Got on the end of a couple of good chances. Nothing to be ashamed of, and then gets the goal. Zero celebration from him. He's too classy to celebrate a goal like that too much.
Haji, if you're listening, I hope you bought your teammate Tatsuhiro Sakamoto dinner, because he did the heavy lifting. Beautiful turn.
Yeah.
Shot was saved, but I suspect it was still trickling in.
It looked like
Haji does what strikers do, and tapped it in from 1 foot out.
Got to do it.
So yeah,
got to do it.
Yeah, enjoy. Spread that goal bonus around a little bit on your homie, please.
Do they get a goal bonus?
So many. I can't claim to know the granular details of Haji Wright's contract, but many of them do.
Okay. Now I got to mention Damian Downs because he was so we did a draft of the 72 players, I guess it was, that Poch has called up since he took over, and Away Goal Spore, which is Greg Velasquez's team, I think won in the poll narrowly over Vince and his Mentality FC. If you want to go see those 11s, go to the Patreon. It's actually, I think I made it open to the public, but Downs was my choice at striker because Velasquez sabotaged me. He knew I needed Sargent to be my last pick, and so even though he would have preferred Jesus Ferreira at right wing over Sargent. He took Sargent in order to like destroy the curb appeal of my 11,
You
which
had
is
to
my
go
own
full
fault.
anorak,
Yeah.
full hipster.
Yeah. So I have Damian Downs as my striker, and as a result of that, I didn't come close to winning the hearts of the voters. But Downs has now started 2 straight games for Hamburg, and since going on loan back to Germany from Southampton, he hasn't scored a single goal this season. So I'm not, don't hear what I'm not saying here. I'm not trying to say, Damian Downs was a really good pick for that 11, but he has he has looked competent in a target role for Hamburg. They went 0-0 with Borussia Mönchengladbach over the weekend. He helped set up a really good chance early. He rescued a few sequences with his back to goal. Pretty good in the holdup. Wasn't very threatening himself, which is what the voters perceived, and I think remains true. So anyway, Damian Downs, keep an eye on him.
And if you want to keep an eye on him, the biggest game of that city on that city's calendar every year when they're in the same division, Hamburg versus St. Pauli, is coming up on the 23rd. And you'll have some yank on yank action with James Sands, a regular for the punk rockers of St. Pauli.
Yeah.
So fun derby if you're looking to follow up on Belz's Downs, his Downs diamond mining there.
Right. We're trying to do a trip to Germany, which I should just go ahead and say right now. If you want to go on the trip to Germany with us, I'll put the link to the form in the show notes. We're gonna go see Leverkusen at Köln, I believe. We're gonna see a Gladbach game, and we're gonna see a PSV game. So obviously that one's not in Germany, but it's all really close, and we're going to Amsterdam too. So we'd love for you to join me and Vince on that trip, and you can express your interest on the form and Google. In the past, we have thought about going to a St. Pauli game, and apparently it's just impossible to get tickets. I mean, not just for the derby, but like for any St. Pauli game, which is
that's on my bucket list.
cool.
I want to get there. Listeners, go. This is going to be an incredible trip. Y'all got to go if you can make the schedule and the money work. That's an incredible itinerary. You can see so much culture and footy in such a small geographic area. And yeah, St. Pauli, the Millerntor, I believe, is a stadium, right? Supposedly it's right downtown in the shadow of a repurposed Nazi bunker, and quite possibly the best fan culture in all of Europe. I mean, as a hopeless leftist, I'm a little biased on this one, but incredible club, and having a yank on the squad just makes it that much more appealing for those of us on this side of the Atlantic. So yeah, bucket list for sure.
Yeah. So is Hamburg like they're kind of like the Republicans in town?
I can't go that far. I know it's a heated derby, but I mean, I guess everybody's a Republican compared to the supporters and at St. Pauli.
Yeah. But I think Hamburg their stadium is like out in the suburbs now, and which a lot of these stadiums are, but not St. Pauli's.
Yeah.
So I got to mention Gio Reyna also played in this game, and I think he looks, he's not doing anything that's gonna like change anybody's mind in terms of the score sheet, but he's looking healthy, and there's some explosion from him. He had a crunching sliding challenge to win the ball back. He had like a kind of an explosive give and go up the right side. But I find myself every time I watch him play, when he comes on, I think of Charlotte's Web, and I think of the way the goose tries to tell Wilbur to get after it, kind of mischievously. She persuades Wilbur to like push his way out of his pen, and then she says, I'm going to just read from the book here. She says, "How does it feel to be free?" And Wilbur says, "I like it. I guess I like it. It felt weird to be outside his fence with nothing between him and the big world." "Where do you think I'd better go?" he asked. Anywhere you like, said the goose. Go down through the orchard, root up the sod, go down through the garden, dig up the radishes, root up everything, eat grass, look for corn, look for oats, run all over, skip and dance, jump and prance, go down through the orchard and stroll in the woods. The world is a wonderful place when you're young. And I just find myself thinking that every time I see Gio Reyna. Every time I see Gio Reyna out there, just run around, just go do something, you know? And he kind of
Get
did.
stuck in, buddy.
Yeah.
Yes. That's beautiful. That's art. Everybody give it up for Belz.
I know, you know.
Throw that man a tip. Art, literature,
Obviously,
beauty.
Thank you. I do feel that. I mean, I'm not just making it up. I do think of that every time. Not every time, but a lot of times when I watch Gio. I'm like, just go enjoy being young. Do something out there. Joe Scally also played in this game. But I don't have anything to say about it.
Folks, that I had nothing to do with this bit. This bit is 100% Belz. It's art.
I got more to say about Wilbur than Joe Scally. And James Sands, who you just mentioned, he scored his first Bundesliga goal for St. Pauli in a wild 3-2 loss at BVB.
Yes, this is a fun one. And in the end, the scruffy leftist got robbed, well, in my opinion, at least, by a very late, very harsh PK decision. They'd clawed back from 2-0 down to 2-2 at Dortmund, which we all know is a very difficult place to play for anyone. Sands got the rally started with a corner kick header. Took a little bit of a deflection, it looked like, off the marker, but impressive on his part to get up and win it and give his team some footing with which to rally. His stats. I mean, look, it's not looking great for St. Pauli right now. This game maybe epitomizes the struggles they've had, extensive struggles they've had. Now they're down in the relegation fight, but he's playing every week just about, and he's right at the heart of everything. 25 of 36 passing, created a chance, won 2/3 of his duels, 6 defensive contributions. So I think it's maybe a similar conversation in a different section of the park to the Ajamang discourse, because has he been lights out for the USMNT? Maybe not, maybe not, but very unique skill set, I think. He's learning. Again, this is a guy who got over to Europe a little late. Took him 2 chances to stick, right? Didn't really shake out at Rangers. They love him in St. Pauli. They waited on him after the injury last year, and he's come good. I mean, it's, maybe he's there because they're short on talent week after week, but he's adding the little subtle edges to his game. Again, you see him, he creates a goal on a set piece. He knows how to get stuck in. He knows how to do the little dark art stuff. He's always had a little bit of that in his locker, and I think he's added to it. And if they can avoid the drop, and he's a part of it, I mean, I think he's helped his chances. I'd put him on the bubble for the World Cup roster, but there's not that many guys who are doing what he's doing week in, week out at the level that he is, and can play holding mid or center back, and have the technical gifts that he has as well.
It's funny to see what he has become. If you probably do remember him playing for the NYCFC academy team. And there was this, I think he was in this game, a big final between his team and the LA Galaxy when Cliburn was still coaching that team, the U17s, and Gio and James Sands were on the NYCFC team, and Justin Hawk, I believe. And NYCFC won, I think in penalty kicks or something that went right down to the wire.
Right? DA championship, maybe?
Yeah. And I just remember him from those days, kind of a slender, cerebral kind of defensive midfielder. And now you watch him play, and he is just out for blood. He plays with as much bite as anybody in our pool. But does he have the chops? Probably not. I think there's too many good. It's the same problem for Berhalter. I think there's just too many good midfielders. you know?
Mhm. But if you need someone to just be a dog and just chain them to the center backs and say, protect zone 14, protect your center backs. I could make an argument that he's approaching Tyler Adams' level there, and that maybe being slightly less of an athlete than Tyler Adams works in his favor if you're giving to give him that assignment, because Adams still gets baited out of position. He still over chases and gets pulled out of those zones in important moments. But I've seen it happen relatively recently, both for club and country. So not trying to dog on Tyler Adams. I still think he's fundamental, but given the health issues, I do think Poch has got to look hard at how he stacks up the depth chart at the in the 6 area.
Okay. Well, hey, we got a couple other sixes to talk about who appeared this weekend. But we gotta get into some Kevin Paredes and Josh Sargent's drama. But first, let's take a break. If you want to skip the ads, join the Patreon. The link is in the show notes. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We just talked about James Sands, so let's talk about Johnny Cardoso and Tanner Tessman a little bit, since they're also in that conversation for that spot. Cardoso, why don't you get us started on him? I definitely have a take, but go ahead.
Yeah, Johnny Cardoso makes his second straight start in central midfield for Atletico Madrid. Some would say labored, some would say cruised to a 1-0 home win over relegation battling Alaves. Johnny was 41 of 44 passing, 93%.
Brilliant.
5 defensive contributions, 3 of 8 on ground duels, possibly a red flag there. 1 of 4 out of 4 on aerials, committed 3 fouls and got yellow carded. I would say I don't know that he's necessarily drawing the headlines, but I did find Into the Calderon, one of the Atleti blogs, gave him a 6 rating, called him the ultimate disruptor. And I quote, whether it was a foul or a tackle, Johnny stopped several Alaves attacks well before they could get started. He was aggressive in midfield, closed down space quickly, and consistently made life uncomfortable for Alaves' ball carriers. His physical presence and willingness to engage set the tone in the center of the pitch. As the American continues to grow and develop in his career, he'll hopefully turn those fouls into clean, well-timed challenges. So
that's a 6 out of 10.
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay.
And big question tomorrow. They play Galatasaray in Champions League. Will he get the nod there? That will tell us a lot, as will the next few lineup choices for Cholo Simeone. Atleti have 6 games in 19 days starting tomorrow. So we'll learn a little bit more in the next couple of weeks where he fits into the rotation.
Yeah. Okay. So he'll play. He'll get minutes over this next few weeks, but I did not find his performance against Alaves convincing, at least not to the degree that the blog did. He just looked like that 3 of 8 in ground duels is almost seems generous, you know? He just got worked, not just physically. He got worked over and over again. Kind of felt like he was flopping all over the place. I mean, he played a nice diagonal pass down to the left wing. He was generally clean when he got on the ball, but he's not. We were just talking about Sands being like such a brutalist. He's not like that at all. You know, he does not look convincing in those battles, and it turns out that's a big part of his job. You know, and I guess I can see him I guess he disrupted some stuff, but it's always like there was more to do, you know, like he got in there, maybe he got a foot to something, then he goes down and like somebody else has to clean it up. So
and they let Alaves hang around, and the ESPN commentators were fairly critical, I think, of that. They get the goal early in the second half, free header for Sorloth, and then you know, by most reports, kind of sat back and just sat on the lead at home against a small team, let's be honest. And considering the rising ambitions, the rising amounts of investment, all those things, you know, maybe this is just Cholo Simeone's team reverting to type a little bit, and they level 1-0, at least historically, despite all the efforts to evolve into something more. So, you know, Johnny is playing in at the center of a 4-4-2 most of the time. Cholo tends to revert back to that, and it gives him a chance to showcase the full range of skills. But I really feel like the clock is ticking. He just hasn't spent much time, if any, extremely limited, if any, time under Poch in U.S. camps, and he's got the opportunity now. It seems like it. You couldn't. No one is playing at a higher level, right? When they play in the pool, in terms of La Liga and Champions League. But
yeah,
let's see what he does with it. I agree with you that we need to see more.
He does have, he's in a perfect situation to make a run. But I guess maybe his most notable moment under Poch was canceling out Jack McGlynn's banger by giving it away against Turkey.
Ooh, that was the Foos goal. Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, the one where he kicked it off the guy's foot into the net. Yeah, that's what you call it, a Foos goal. Got it. All right. Tanner Tessman is back to health as well. I think he's played 2 straight in the midfield for Lyon, and Lyon got the win 2-1 against Brest. But the most interesting thing I thought was he's playing with Endrick now, who's on loan from Real Madrid. And there was this one time Tessman gets into the box, makes a little darting run, and Endrick's got it on the right sideline and just plays this ridiculous outside of the boot pass that kind of scimitars around the outside of the back line and falls right in front of him. And Tessman tries to take it on the half volley, I think with the outside of his boot, with his right boot, to sort of spin it into the far post, and it just completely biffs it, sends it up into the sky. But man, that would have been something special if he had gotten that right, because you get the outside of the boot left pass and the outside of the boot right shot to create kind of an S on the field. It would have been special. But anyway, that's for me, the most interesting thing that happened. Tessman was pretty solid, I think, as he tends to be, and Lyon gets the win. And the goal happens after he comes off too. So it was 2-0 when he was subbed off.
I think, the week to week is so interesting to watch with him, because he's at I'm sure there's plenty of Ligue 1 skeptics and possibly even haters out there among the listenership. But that's a big club.
Yeah.
Beyond whatever financial or, marketing issues the league has. He's at a big club. He's under a harsh spotlight. He's in the center of the park being asked to do a bunch of difficult things against high-level opposition every time he turns out. And he very often is doing it. And I'm seeing him grapple with this challenge the same way he did in his last stop at Venezia, and come to grips with it, and then advance and shift to the next gear. And for me, there's just not that many center mids who are in the pool who are doing the kind of stuff he's doing, being asked to. And when he falls short, right, they're getting savaged in L'Equipe and other prominent places. And some of the criticism of him has been downright flowery and extravagant. And he's living with all that and getting back up again and going for it. So, and having a name like Endrick in the lineup again, that raises that, right? But it also gives him so many more of those learning opportunities. He's absolutely been a learning computer in his entire professional career to date, going back to when I interviewed him when he was 17 or 18 or something, whenever he was hit the first team at FC Dallas, and was clearly grounded and focused beyond his years. So I rate him, even if the week to week stuff falls short, because I think he's the box to box plus, let's call it, attributes that he's honing are so rare and so useful. So
yeah, it's cool to see. He's now playing alongside Endrick, sort of the great hope of Brazilian football. At least he was last year. He might not be anymore. I don't know. And he learned a lot from Nemanja Matic. played alongside him for a season. We're going to get to Kevin Paredes here in a second. He's playing alongside Christian Eriksen. And it's really hard. I don't know if you have this experience, but it's really hard to get players to talk plainly about what they're learning from other players. Like even when we had Sanjay ask Tessman what it was like, what he learned from Matic, and it was like how competitive he was. Basically, they competed in everything, including ping pong, really hard. But somehow it wasn't like I always am hoping one of these players will say, I learned from Matic, something specific about the game, and you almost never get that. But I guess my point with all this is Americans are playing with outstanding players all over Europe right now, and in the U.S. too. I mean, Sebastian Berhalter's with Thomas Muller. I almost said Gerhard Muller. Thomas Muller. Benja Kremeski has been playing with Messi. So, I mean, there's a lot of examples of it everywhere, but it just doesn't seem like it was that way 10 years ago quite as much,
Mm-hmm.
The world
and
class.
some of that, I think for some players, there's, I call it the omerta. There's a sort of different interpretations of what's inside the fold of a team environment or a locker room environment. And sometimes they're reluctant to share, or sometimes they're just processing in a way that they don't vocalize or aren't able to really coin it into words for months or sometimes even years. Right. But I think, again, that's part of the player ID process that I love, is like seeing not only a player's skill sets, but their capacity for learning. Right. And I've heard from a number of coaches and high level soccer types that's increasingly important, with the sheer volume of information, the volume of requirements of a high level player, especially one in a position like Tessman's. All the processing that happens now is such an incredibly high level, and you're expected to mesh the conception and execution so quickly. So let's resolve in 2026 to ask the better questions that can unlock some of that, because it is awesome when you can get them to open up the notebook a little bit.
Yeah. I wonder if part of it is I'm sure it's all of what you said, probably even more than this, but it does seem to me, I wonder if there's a little bit of, like, take the Tanner Tessman example. He's not going to go on and on about things he learned from Matic, because he has to come at it with the mindset that he and Matic are competing for the same position.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't want to like concede in some way that Matic is a master and he's an apprentice, even though that's kind of how we all see it, Matic he's a master, he's old, but he's a master. And, but I don't think Tessman wants to think about it that way, and I think a lot of players don't want to think about it that way, but just my theory.
Yeah.
Let's talk about two other young guys in Germany. Kevin Paredes, he's back. I know Jordan, the moderator of the Discord server, is very excited about this. Kevin has appeared in 3 straight now after missing the better part of 2 seasons. Got his most substantive outing over the weekend. Came on at the half and played left back. Energetic, bright. Got in a good flop to win a foul, which is one of his core strengths. Also won the corner kick for the late equalizer by, over in the corner, lifts the ball over somebody's foot to dart around him, to dance around him, and then tries to cross it and goes out for a corner. Ensuing corner kick is the equalizer, and Wolfsburg comes away with a 1-1 win. He played left back. I should say that. He played left back in a pretty attacking high role, but still it was left back. And he looks to me like he's been redeeming the time that he's been out. He seemed calm and sort of aware of what was going on around him. Seems like he's been watching a lot of the game and studying. So I don't know, put him in the left back mix. Why not?
45 minutes. And as you said, a role in the equalizer. That's how you keep getting those chances. I'm a Paredes liker. Again, I've been watching him since he came up here in my region, the DMV region, as a teenager. The injury challenges have been brutal for him. And another kid there's Aaronson parallels, I think, in a young guy who's a little bit on the slight side of things, and growing into the body and then figuring out how to use it best at an absolutely cutthroat elite level of play. Right. But it just keeps coming back. And I think there's something different about him than most of the other guys in his positions in the pool.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him since the shape and philosophical shift under Poch with, what I think of as more or less a 3-4-2-1. I think that really suits him. We saw, I think in the Olympics, he was working on both sides. I mean, he can play inverted also, which is another useful aspect to him. Lovely left foot, runs all day. Really fun to consider what that last camp could be like if you imagine that you have a fit and an in-form Jedi, Kevin Paredes, Max Arston. Who else? I mean, there may
John
be
Tolkien
others.
is,
Tolkien. I mean, just going at it, hammer and nail for those roster spots at perhaps the positional Achilles heel of all time for the USMNT.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, that's what you got to think about. At least what I got to think about when I think about Paredes' chances. Like, it's Jedi's position. I think Poch would be a madman to not see it that way. And then he loves Max Arston. So where does that leave Paredes? Even if he does, I mean, if he comes on like a ball of fire, then I think anything's possible. But other youngster in Germany is Nokai Banks. I don't have a ton to say. I just keep starting. Augsburg drew at home 2-2 to Freiburg. I think it was a sort of a typical Banks performance, maybe a little better than it has been. I think that's probably enough to say about it. He's in a similar situation to Paredes, where if he comes on like a ball of fire, he has a chance. And obviously there's more positional scarcity at his position than Paredes is.
Yeah, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive full 90s in the Bundesliga and other comps. I do have a sneaking suspicion that it's too late. That again, his cycle, his personal trajectory doesn't line up with the way Poch has been doing things, and the extent to which he seems to have put so much trust in Ream, Richards, and then who after that. Again, it could happen. It could happen, but he's got to be in the March camp, right, to have a shot. You would think.
Yeah, if he's not there,
we have no idea.
It's curtains for this cycle, obviously. McKenzie, by the way, not in the squad. I think he was dealing with a little knock for Toulouse, and they beat Nice 5-1, I believe. We got some coaching. We got some coaching news.
By the way, too. Sorry, one interjection. Banks is 19. Like, please, everyone. Like, he's ahead of the curve in age wise, but we're going to be talking a lot about him in the future years, even if not as much this year.
Yeah. I mean, people will say, well, John Brooks was 18 when he scored that goal against Ghana.
Yes, that's true. That's a great point. The player pool's in a fundamentally different position today.
Yeah.
For the better.
Yep. What else? What about Pellegrino? What's he doing?
If you have to add a few minutes for Yanks coaching abroad for these review shows, I mean, extra work, but wow, what a great development that would be, right? If we got some
that
Yanks
would be
coaching
cool.
abroad, beating world global giants in the what I would say is probably the biggest upset on the European continent on the weekend. Pellegrino Matarazzo, who's still just a few games into his Real Sociedad tenure, spearheads a 2-1 upset win ambushing FC Barcelona. And there's some asterisks here, I guess. Barca had, I believe it was 3 goals disallowed. I don't think that any of them were horrendously bad calls, but we all know that the bigs tend to get the rub of the green in La Liga, and they did not this time around. They also had a PK decision disallowed.
Good.
But them's the breaks. Matarazzo, who is the first American to coach in La Liga, he's taken Sociedad from 15th place to 8th place since he arrived. They're in the Copa del Rey quarterfinals. Soccer America, big up to the legends and OGs over at Soccer America, had a quote from him. Very much coach at work speak here. Of course, very happy. It was very special. We need to keep going. We've reached nothing yet. We've had some points. Yes, we've come one round further in the cup, but we're nowhere close to finishing where we want to finish. So we need to keep improving, keep working the way we're working, and then things will happen the way they should. Are those the words of a future USMNT manager, Belz?
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say he's never gonna be the manager. I don't think so. He doesn't. He never gives any indication that he really wants the job.
Yeah.
Do you think you think he does? You think he's gonna be the coach?
Maybe he's gonna outgrow the job. Maybe he'll be too good, too expensive for the Fed by the time he's done in La Liga. You know, that's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
No. Listen, I mean, but come on, everybody wants to coach their country, right? Sooner or later. I can understand why he's playing it cool. I can understand why he's got other stuff on his list. I can understand why he feels like there's lots of dragons left to slay over there across the pond, and more power to him. But if he's not in the conversation, then the rest of us are doing something wrong, I think. Maybe not for the next, whether or not Poch has, of course, dropped some rather strong hints that he wouldn't necessarily automatically leave after the World Cup, although I suspect it will be irresistible for him to go back to England. But assuming he does move on, it's probably too soon in fall of 2026 to ring up Matarazzo for the USMNT job. But I think in a few years down the line, if he keeps on the current trajectory and keeps building these experiences in big leagues in Europe, I think we should be thrilled that an American is doing that, and then he should be rewarded with at the very least a couple of substantial phone calls, maybe even a Zoom.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool. I mean, he's living in San Sebastian, Basque country. I mean,
I hear the seafood's world class.
Yeah, I assume so. I don't know. Why would he want to coach the US, especially like right after, even in like 2027? What's the draw for him? I don't know.
Yeah. 2030 will be here before we know it.
That's true. That's true.
You know,
that's true. Another American coach who had a win over the weekend, much less dramatic, was much less dramatic. I said that was Jesse Marsh, and Canada beat Guatemala in their Camp Poutine friendly, 1-0. Didn't catch that one.
It was my daughter's birthday weekend, so I try to cram in can MNT wherever I can, but I couldn't fit it this weekend. But deep down, don't you want that? Don't we want a border clash in the knockout rounds?
Oh, that would be so fun. That would
come on.
Yeah. I mean, Mexico in the knockout rounds, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Let's take Canada. Let's take Canada down.
Tasty.
That'd be lovely.
Good fun. Great quotes. The pregame media will be spectacular. Surely.
Hopefully we'll have a new president by then. So it doesn't have to be about that.
I had not considered the US-Denmark derby taking shape over the next few months. Let's hope it stays cold. Except it stays cold up there.
Yeah.
No hot wars in the Arctic, please.
Good grief. And
then I wanted to throw one in front of you, Belz. I don't know if you've been taking in any of the AFCON. I'm super frustrated that super fun tournament that belongs in the much higher in the global conversation is locked away on the over-the-top subscription service of BN Sports, but I carved out a little time on Sunday afternoon to hit up one of my local pubs and watch most of the conclusion.
Morocco versus Senegal.
Thrilling AFCON final. Yes. Incredible. Did AFCON go full CONCACAF, or did they merely showcase that our CONCACAF chaos is just a pale shadow of Cafecite?
I think CONCACAF is a pale shadow, I think, is where I land on it. Apparently a battle between the Senegalese and Moroccan press corps. And this raised the question, if the USMNT press corps got into it with the Senegalese or Moroccan press corps, how would we do? And I think we'd be on the phone with HR as soon as things got tense. You know.
And it's even harder to call HR when you're a freelancer. So
right.
Sometimes it's just you and your wits in the box up there.
Right.
1099 life can be tough that way. Yeah.
I didn't watch the game, but where was it? Where was the final?
This was in Rabat. So Morocco was hosting Morocco, who I think for me, it took on an extra layer of interest because this is a program that's tangled with the U.S. at multiple levels over the last few years and had some interesting games, and they've certainly dealt some heartbreak out to the U.S. and some games of consequence, but clearly have made a coherent, sustained investment and had a plan in trying to take their team to the next level and seem to have succeeded. But have often underachieved and fallen just short in AFCON over the decades. And so this was really their moment. It seemed as though they had it served up on a platter with what I thought was a super dubious injury time penalty kick VAR decision after Senegal had a goal of theirs waved off at the other end just minutes before by another soft decision in the penalty box. And then after just incredible scenes down on the pitch with Senegal's coach leading his team off the pitch in protest into the locker room and then being coaxed out, apparently he's going to get disciplined anyway for all that, and could conceivably be disciplined with suspensions that could even run into the World Cup, which is wild to consider that it could affect this summer's tournament. But they go out there, and then Brahim Diaz, after cynically, I thought, earning the penalty, then chips a Panenka right into the hands of Mendy, the goalkeeper. And ball don't lie was vindicated in multiple languages in this case. But incredible spectacle. I really wish more Americans could watch it. Maybe someday. Again, another sign of growth is if we can get these kind of tournaments more easily over the air. But it was super fun. It made me wish I'd been able to watch more of the tournament. And I think any of these teams that we saw in the latter stages of the tournament will be a very, very tough out for the U.S. should they cross paths this summer. Morocco and Senegal included, and especially. So, but wow, just a really passionate occasion and something for, I think, us in CONCACAF to aspire to be at that level of both chaos and quality.
Mm-hmm. Did it seem like there were a lot of Senegalese fans in the stadium? Probably hard to say, but
and this is I don't know if they've decided this. I mean, it was a brand new stadium, relatively new stadium, looked gorgeous. I'm pretty sure it's got to figure prominently in their hosting plans for the next World Cup. I think that's going to be an amazing trip. I mean, FIFA's making it as convoluted as possible with some of the different centennial celebrations and matches in South America, and sort of, it's going to be a bizarre, ugly beast of a tournament as this summer's will, I guess, just with the sheer size of it. But you had I don't know. I will leave it to others to delve into the details about the ticketing for the event, but there's certainly a spirited Senegalese contingent, even though the home advantage was clear. I mean, the din of whistling, it really felt like whenever Senegal had any amount of possession, sustained whistling was almost like it almost sounded like some kind of emergency beacon had been set off, you know, where there was an audio problem because the whistles were so loud and so sustained and universal from the home fans. And I will say, I got to catch one of Morocco's games in Qatar, just on an off day. Just caught a bus and went and watched them play. I think it was Croatia, and truly like an amazing supporter culture, just like a different, tons of spirit, tons of passion, and just like different rhythms, the chants, the dancing. I mean, it's just like, it felt like a whole different flavor of soccer culture that I hadn't had as much exposure to. So
this was a Senegal game, or
sorry. This was in Morocco, in reference to Morocco. So, yeah, so another one to watch both on and off the pitch, I think, for anybody listening here.
Okay. Yeah. Love it. We did, I mean, I know this isn't why you're bringing it up, but we did decide that, you know, with Vince on our side, the U.S. press corps would have a fighting chance, at least, you know.
Vince would be a must.
Yeah, Vince is going to be kind of a key player in that.
That's where you'd have to call him, even if he's in the supporter section or in just a paying citizen. You got to call him.
We need you in the press box, buddy.
Yeah. Drop the bat signal immediately.
Greg's no slouch either. It should be said. Greg Velasquez.
No shade to any other members of the U.S. M&T press corps, but I think with our delusions of neutrality that are very unusual by global press box standards and media ethics and so forth, I think that would work against us as well.
That was the thing, right? That was the thing that upset the Moroccan press corps, is the Senegalese press corps was celebrating too loudly.
And I could imagine. I mean, it's a gut punch. And if you, I could probably talk for a whole other episode about the experiences of being at various international matches, working in the press box. And you very quickly see, even like Gold Cup. I mean, I knew what outliers, I realized what outliers the U.S. is in the world game in terms of like this idea of, and even for me, like I feel so much of my soccer upbringing and my entry point as a young person was through the national team, right? And I recognize we're all carrying our nationalities, whether we like it or not. But other countries have nothing like this idea of detachment that we kind of like. I feel like I have to have on some level to do the job, at least, you know, for most of the time when you're covering a match and you're covering a team and trying to look at things with the clearest eyes, right? But when you step into a typical competitive international match press box, and so many of the other teams will have, you know, I remember covering a Jamaica US Gold Cup game, and there's like most of the Jamaica press pack is wearing the official polos of the national team gear, right? And like, and having to be shushed by whoever's running the press box that day when they celebrate a goal. I mean, we're so we just have this quirk about our how our journalism culture and our soccer cultures have mixed. So I think if it ever went down like it did in Rabat, we Yanks would have to make some difficult decisions very quickly.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me. So I wonder, do you think that detachment is important in journalism, in the journalism that you do, or is it sort of like a red herring kind of?
I don't speak for anybody else, and I don't expect anything from anyone else. Like, for some people, it came like I didn't really come up through, you know, the whole network of organized, mostly print journalism was sort of crumbling throughout my adult life, right? But a lot of the OGs in the U.S. M&T press back, who many of whom are still there, came up through the newspaper culture where you have to have a sense of neutrality or triangulation to do your job. That was like sort of built into whatever you were covering for whatever publication.
Right.
I think it's changed a lot now.
A soccer game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt like what I often say is, I root for individuals. Like I find myself, um, drawn to compelling stories and thinking positive thoughts about a lot of people in this sport and rooting for people to succeed. And, but, and inevitably I've learned that your local team or the team you're covering, their success or struggles on the field will inevitably affect your career at some point, right? Like, yeah, you tend to your career is often enhanced by covering a successful team. But I always felt like I had to sort of check something, at the door when I was doing it for money. You know, I mean, I remember at some point I donated or gave away some USMNT gear that I'd had over the years before I really got into the business, because it just felt like that was what I needed to do.
Huh. Yeah. The thing is, and this doesn't speak directly to what you're saying, but the thing is, if you really love something, you can be its fiercest critic, you know?
Absolutely.
Like I've been furiously trying to find the GK Chesterton quote about this, but basically, nobody says, the people who say my country, right or wrong, that's not really patriotism, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying my mother, drunk or sober. you know,
Incredible.
it's like I feel like like wanting the national team to win makes it does not mean you can't be a thoughtful critic of the national team,
So,
or
some of the
a club
most,
team. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've learned from, and I think this is something that's where the industry got taught a lesson by upstarts, right? I mean, whether you want to call it like the blog era or blogging revolution or whatever. I mean, the increased diversity of perspectives have shown that, yeah, some of the most trenchant and worthwhile coverage, including especially criticism of the USMNT, comes from devoted fans, right? Nobody knows you like the ones that love you,
Right.
and no one gets more tired of your
Bullshit.
BS and your
Yeah.
failures than the ones that watch you and know you the most. So I think, they maybe filled a gap maybe in what was being provided, the content that was being provided. So I think for sure, I mean, what Scuffed has done is that there was no one doing that on, and I think maybe still no one, right, on the scale and with the relentlessness and the regularity and the depth. Like, who is offering that in the quote unquote professional or detached media core? Like, there's a lot of good coverage out there, but in terms of the holistic nature of it, I think there's a lesson there.
Well, who was kind of doing it was Matt Doyle. Like like back in the I mean, he still is, of course, but back in the late teens, I always wanted to read what Doyle had to say about the national team. And you know why? Because I could tell he really cared.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big fan. He's a big fan of the national team. Like, he wants it to win really bad. And that kind of came through in the way he wrote about it. And I liked that.
I think he's had to have a certain sense of balance, with covering MLS, right? Because there's now 30 teams, and you have to try and look at them all fairly. And I think he's in a little bit of a different zone, a little different lane with the US content that he provides, and it hits differently, and they dovetail really well. But I think I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And that the guy's been around long enough to have seen a lot, as both a USMNT liker and a longtime American soccer observer.
Yeah. Well, we'll do another podcast on epistemology and
and 10 people
the nature
will
of criticism. Everybody will be eager to listen to it. All right, I think that's it. Charlie, thank you so much for doing this. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you.